The pick is in.
With the number 54 pick, the Green Bay Packers select Anthony Belton, offensive lineman from NC State. Presented by LinkedIn. Here to break it down with me is Peter Bukowski, the host of Locked On Packers. And Peter, after the Packers take a wide receiver for the first time in 23 years, they double down on the offensive side of the ball, taking offensive linemen. How are you feeling about the pick?
Well, I mean, first of all, it has been a running bit here in Green Bay that for years, all they did was take defensive players in the first round. And now they go, first two picks are offensive players. But Kevin, this is a continuation of a remaking of this offense going back to free agency. They bring in Aaron Banks, who is 325 pounds. That is well above what they are usually looking for in Green Bay for their offensive linemen. They usually like offensive linemen. They could play tackle, they could play guard. So like 315 is kind of their normal spot. Anthony Belton is 6'6", 336. And the expectation, what I had heard is he played like 340, 345, maybe even at 350 at times at North Carolina State. This is an enormous human person, not unlike Orlando Brown, who you watched play in Baltimore to pretty good success. The difference is Belton is a legitimately good athlete, 8.8 relative athletic score, which is a score out of 10. So that means for a guard, if they move him to guard, he's an 88th percentile athlete at 6'6", 360 plus. That is Packersy in that way. And I think what it tells us is they want to be a powerful, strong front, not unlike the Eagles, but they want to have the speed to beat you over the top, not unlike the Eagles. I know that sometimes we can get a little carried away, right, with comparing how teams are building to the best teams. But this is a comparison that is begging to be made right now because this is how the Eagles built a juggernaut.
With Anthony Belton now in the equation, Peter, break down the Packers offensive line for me. How you feeling about it, and what does he add to this group?
Well, I think he could play tackle, but Brian Gutekunst, the Packers general manager, has said Jordan Morgan is going to get a chance to complete at left tackle. So Rasheed Walker is the incumbent left tackle. He was pretty solid last year, but is a 7th-round pick in the last year of his deal. So what kind of future does he have, and how much are they going to base their evaluations on who plays on that future? My expectation here would be that Jordan Morgan is your left tackle of the future next year, and Sean Ryan, their right guard, is also a free agent in 2026. Rasheed Walker is a free agent in 2026. So now you have two guys, Anthony Belton and Jordan Morgan, who can compete for that, either that left tackle spot or that right guard spot. Whoever loses the left tackle job, you've got a right guard. Congratulations, Green Bay. And so in a season, in a league where there are teams out there that can't get 4 offensive linemen that they feel good about, much less 5, I think the Packers enter this season with like 7 offensive linemen that they feel really good about it. And you know, whether it's the best by high-end talent in terms of offensive lines in the league, I don't know. I think it's probably top 5. But in terms of depth, I think right now, today, Kevin, this is the deepest offensive line in football. And you go back to that playoff game against Philadelphia, not to gild the lily on this Philly comparison, but they lose Elton Jenkins in the first half. And they have to play Kadeem Telfort and Travis Glover, names I promise I did not make up, but it may seem that way. Those guys could not handle Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. Surprise, surprise. No one, like the starters for most teams, couldn't handle those two guys. Your backup's not going to be able to do it. So if I told you, let's rewind to that Philadelphia game, and who is a position that if you throw that player, a high-level player on the Packers, that changes the outcome of the Philly game, or could. Receiver would probably be the first answer you would give. The second answer would probably be offensive line, because if they had Jordan Morgan healthy, if they had an Anthony Belton on the roster, they have a much better chance of surviving, because we know this is a game of attrition, that you have to have this kind of depth. Plus, this is setting them up for the future. So it does kind of seem like they built this to be, let's not only imitate the Eagles, but let's figure out where we came up short trying to get to the Eagles and add those pieces. That's what they've done so far. They've got another opportunity here in probably about an hour.
Well, you mentioned wide receiver, you mentioned offensive line, you mentioned the Packers. It's defense usually when it comes to these early picks. Is defense next, or do you think they'll continue to add to that offense?
I mean, look, I thought this was going to be defense. There were so many good defensive players on the board, pass rushers, corners. I think what they're telling us is they feel a lot better about their defense than we did from the outside. Remember, they fired their defensive line coach, Jason Rebrovich, in the offseason. Brian Gutekunst said, we think we have the guys on this roster to be good enough with the pass rush. They hired a new defensive line coach, DeMarcus Covington, from the New England Patriots. They have the high picks invested: Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness. They love what they got from Brenton Cox after they traded Preston Smith last year. So I do think they probably need to add in the cornerback room just to get some bodies. The question is going to be who's available to them, because we did see a bunch of corners go off there just in the last 45 minutes as we record this. So their options may be scant. I wouldn't be surprised. Keep an eye out for this. Another receiver is not out of the question here. I'm telling you, I think they're going to double up in either round 3 or round 4. We'll see.
For continuing coverage of the Green Bay Packers, subscribe to Locked On Packers wherever you get your podcasts.